Hi, let's yap. So I am back from my little hiatus. Sorry. I was busy graduating and doing an internship and writing a book and just living very differently, pursuing something different. But I'm rediscovered a passion lately. A big reason I stopped posting is I was just so incredibly tired of modern day drama and pop culture drama and celebrity drama. I do think it is fascinating, and I do think there are a lot of good things to explore, diving into a lot of things going on today. Obviously there's a lot going on, but it is exhausting living with how much stuff we have going on in the world right now. So although I do love pop culture and celebrity drama and all the mess of today, I'm tired of living through today's chaos, okay? I'm tired of this grandpa. And I also feel like YouTube is so oversaturated with this same level of commentary. Even myself, I follow 8 different commentary channels, and I love them. They're fantastic at what they do, but I don't know if I really would ever fit into that category. So I am still going to do commentary, but I am doing commentary on messier drama than today's drama. I am going to do historical dramatic commentary. Yeah. These scandals of the past, love stories of the past, situations of the past, they make modern day drama look tame in comparison. Okay, I'm telling you, scandals of today are boring compared to scandals back then. It's crazy. So I majored in art history and I minored in history, and so I just love historical drama. I think it's so incredibly fun, and I think more people need to be more invested in history, because I think this is going to be a bit of a side tangent, but I think a huge issue with the education system of today is the lack of focus on history and the lack of focus on important history as well. So you often hear the saying victory or history is told through the eyes of the victors, which yes, it's very true, it is. But I just feel like the education system doesn't push history as much as it should be, and thus we get repetitive events like what's going on in the political state of the world today. So yeah, and although I won't be talking as much about the politics, well, I say that today's video is going to be very politically focused, as I won't be talking as much about political situations. I am going to be talking more about the messy dramatic parts of history. I do still think that it is important to maybe fall in love with this type of history and then lead you down a certain route, and then you learn more history and you teach yourself more, and hopefully we just stop repeating patterns. It's so repetitive, it's crazy. So yeah, that's just kind of what I'm shifting my content towards. It's still going to be this same format that I've been doing, where I just sit down and I yap to a camera. Y'all know I love to yap. That's the reason my channel is Sam Likes to Yap. It's so fun. I could listen to myself talk nonstop. I'm sorry I'm looking in the viewfinder. I keep forgetting that I did myself up like this today, and I did nothing to my hair. That's the funny part. Yeah, anyway, I am dressed as Cleopatra today. And I do want to, if you guys like this type of content, continue this on where I dress up as a character from a story I'll be telling. Okay, I'm gonna stop yapping. I'm gonna start yapping. Picture this. Okay, walk with me here. Your best friend is dating this guy, right? He's this older guy. You obviously don't approve of him because he's way older than your friend, but he is loaded. Runs his own country kind of loaded. He gives your friend everything, okay? Palaces, jewels, armies, the usual things that one would give a boyfriend or girlfriend. They have a kid together, right? And then suddenly he dies. And instead of grieving quietly, your best friend moves on quickly to his best friend. Yeah, this is messy. It's bloody. It is legendary. We are going to be talking about one of history's wildest love triangles today. And I don't even know if I would consider it a love triangle. I just wanted a catchy title. But it's insane. We're going to be talking about the story of Cleopatra, Julius Caesar, and Mark Antony. So sorry that I keep looking down. I am looking at my laptop notes. Anyway, let's set the scene. It is the 1st century BCE, and 18-year-old Cleopatra is running Egypt with her husband, who is also her 10-year-old brother. Yep, one and the same. Ptolemy the 8th. Ptolemy. I should have looked up how to pronounce this at first. I think it's Ptolemy. We're going to stick with Ptolemy from the time being, but it might be Ptolemy. We're going to stick with Ptolemy. Okay, she's not running the country without drama, obviously. She's married to her brother, which, by the way, is a very common tradition in Egyptian rule. They would often... If y'all think that one Habsburg, I think it's the Habsburgs. If y'all think the Habsburgs went crazy with their inbreeding, just look into the Egyptian dynasties. There was a reason King Tut was like... there was something with King Tut and inbreeding. Anyway, that's just like a whole different story. So Cleopatra, she's young, she's ambitious, and she also knows that her throne is not secured in the slightest bit. Cleopatra, she's part of the Ptolemaic dynasty. I think it's pronounced Ptolemaic. And her dad, he had not one, not two, but 6 legitimate children who all wanted a piece of the throne. And on top of this, man's left Egypt in a state of complete disarray. I mean, it was already kind of in a state of disarray since Alexander the Great had dispersed a bunch of the empires, and Egypt was one of the... Okay, again, whole nother story. We're not going to go down that. From a young age, Cleopatra knew that she was not in a safe position. This is going to be a bit of a side tangent from the main story. But like Miss Girl, she would have witnessed some of the crazy political family drama that you can imagine. Like, if you think Trump calling his own daughter hot is insane, just looking at Cleopatra, like, her story is insane. Because after her father, Ptolemy VII, fled Egypt in exile, her sister, Berenice, began to rule Egypt. But that would only last 2 years, because the second Ptolemy returned to Egypt with Roman support, he had his own daughter executed. And Cleopatra would have been a witness to all of this. So Miss Girl's seeing it all. She's going through it. Anyway, both of the sibling spouses, Cleopatra and Ptolemy, they wanted full sole control of Egypt. So young Ptolemy, since he is the man, had her banished, and he proclaimed himself the sole ruler of Egypt. Now in comes Julius Caesar, Rome's most powerful man. He's older, he's insanely influential, and at this point, he's basically untouchable. Roman triumphs, they're not for the common man. They are held to publicly celebrate and sanctify the success of a military commander who had led Roman forces to victory in the service of the state, or who had successfully completed a foreign war. So it's safe to say that these triumphs, they're not really common. At one point, Julius Caesar gave up his right to a triumph in order to politically run against one of his enemies. And the best part of that story is he later ended up throwing himself that triumph anyway, along with 3 other triumphs afterwards. So Caesar is celebrating his victory over a man named Pompey in Alexandria inside the Egyptian palace, but Cleopatra, she just got kicked out of Alexandria. So, of course, she does what any girl would do. She sneaks her way back into the palace, seduces Caesar, and forms an alliance with him before her brother has a chance. Just a casual girly Tuesday, if you ask me. Caesar agrees to her rule and backing her rule only on the basis that her brother and her would go back to a joint rule. Again, the ancient world's not very feminist when it comes to female rulers. Again, another side tangent, and it might be a story that I end up diving down one day because it's an equally insane story. But the only Egyptian pharaoh who was like actually sole pharaoh on her own is this woman named Hatshepsut Ma'at-Kare. Oh, I love her. I might have to talk about her one day. But anyway, Cleopatra's brother husband is obviously furious that Cleopatra snuck her way back in and formed this alliance with Caesar. And all hell ends up breaking loose in the palace, with Cleopatra's younger sister also deciding that now would be the perfect time to come in and declare herself as the true ruler of Egypt. Because why not? Chaos was already happening, may as well throw a bit more on top of it. But as we've established, Caesar is not a man you want to mess with, and so after his troops arrive from Syria, they end up easily being able to defeat Ptolemy and Cleopatra's younger sister. So Cleopatra and Caesar, they form this alliance. She needs him for security. She wants a foreign allegiance that will solidify her right to Egypt's throne. And Caesar, he is, besides being infatuated by her, he needs the money. Egypt is loaded. They're the breadbasket for Rome at this point. So they do have this very mutual need for each other. And Cleopatra, she is all about needing a powerful man at her side. Mind you, powerful, independent woman, feminism, yes. But when it came to ancient ruling, like I said, women, if they wanted to have any actual say in the rule, needed a man at their side. With that in mind, Caesar does say that she does need to continue a joint rule, this time with Cleopatra's remaining brother, who is 12, and who is now her soon-to-be husband, Ptolemy the 14th. So Cleopatra will marry another one of her brothers. Mind you, Cleopatra and Caesar, they're lovers still at this point. But the age gap is insane. Like, it would be if I started dating Keanu Reeves, which, like, don't be shy, Keanu, but Cleopatra, she's 21, and Caesar is 52. Yeah, it's unfortunately giving Leonardo DiCaprio, and I just know Keanu would not pull a Leo right like that. On top of this, their relationship is less of a relationship and more of a situationship. Caesar is still married, and like I said, Cleopatra is about to marry her other brother at this point. But a big part of this is Caesar does not have any legitimate heirs from any of his wives. He's had 3 wives at this point. He's on his 3rd. And he has no legitimate heirs. But then Cleopatra becomes pregnant, and she has a son named Caesarion, however you pronounce it. And like I said, this is a huge deal because he has no legitimate heirs. So they're both just like ruling their own empires. At one point, Cleopatra follows him to Rome, and she is not greeted by the city with open arms. I mean, she kind of has to be because, like, Caesar is pretty much their sole ruler at this point. But Rome, they do not like foreign rulers of any sort. Either way, Cleopatra, she knows that she is defended. She knows that she's good because she's got Caesar at the side. So for one brief second, she thinks that she will avoid her sister's fate and survive the harsh political climate of the ancient world. But then, and I know this is going to be a major plot twist that I'm sure you've just never heard about this before. Julius Caesar gets assassinated in 44 BCE. Shocking. It's like if I told you Jesus died on the cross. So Caesar is literally stabbed in the back, and also figuratively stabbed in the back. Fun fact, one of Caesar's assassins, Marcus Aurelius Brutus, was a very close friend of his. Some people theorize that he might have been a son. Some people just say that he treated him like a son, but he's one of the assassins. So literally and figuratively stabbed in the back. Here's the thing. Like I said, Rome hates foreigners. Cleopatra, at this point, is still in Rome with her son. And she's now suddenly a single mom with no powerful leader to help her keep control of Egypt, and a son who could possibly maybe inherit Rome one day, despite this hatred for foreign leadership. But she ends up having to flee Rome right after the assassination because she knows about this hatred. So she gets out of Dodge, she gets back to Egypt, where she presumably, though not confirmed, has her second brother husband killed. And she is now left free to rule Egypt with her 3-year-old son, Caesarion. But here's where the story is about to get juicy. So you're going to kind of have to follow along with me a little bit for a minute here. We're going to have to get through the politics to get through the good stuff, even though I just talked about so much politics. You know what I'm trying to say. The people of Rome, they were pissed that Caesar died because Caesar, he was a man for the people. So while the senators who killed Caesar thought that Rome would just simply go back to the republican system that they had in place beforehand, They are literally driven out of Rome by the Roman people, just like Cleo's father was from Egypt. But then the political situation in Rome gets even worse after Caesar's will is read, because his right-hand man, Mark Antony, thought that he was going to be one of the main people that was declared Caesar's heir. So he thought he was going to take over all of Caesar's duties. But to everybody's surprise, Caesar named his 18-year-old grandnephew, not even a nephew, grandnephew Octavian, as his sole heir. This man, he has zero military experience, barely any life experience in general. Everyone is just so confused why Caesar would make the decision to adopt him posthumously and make him sole heir. And Antony, he is probably pissed about this decision. But either way, he seizes control of the government and he realizes that Caesar's death needs to be avenged. So he, Octavian, and a man named Marcus Lepidus form a triumvirate, which is basically just like a three-man dictatorship rulership kind of over Rome. This triumvirate led to a brutal purge of the political enemies, the people who assassinated Caesar, and they were extraordinarily successful because all of those people ended up dead. Now at this point, you could be asking yourself, Sam, why didn't Caesar name Caesarion heir? Well, as I already said, Rome hates foreigners. So there's this silly little Roman law that said that he could not acknowledge any foreign-born son out of wedlock. So because him and Cleopatra weren't married, his son was never his legitimate heir, and on top of that, he was a foreigner. So even though Caesarion was acknowledged privately, he would have never been acknowledged publicly. Now, Antony, he is recently widowed. So in order to solidify a connection between Octavian and Antony, and to make a peace deal of sorts, Antony agrees to marry Octavian's sister, Octavia. Side note, they were so unoriginal with female names in ancient Rome. It was literally just the family name but feminized. So like, for example, if it was Julius Caesar's sister, her name would have been Julia. And if there was like an older or a younger sister, they would have just added minor or major in front of the name. Anyway, at this point, all of the political rivals, they have been defeated at the Battle of Philippi. And Lepidus, the third person in the triumvirate, he has been kicked out of the triumvirate. So Antony is married to Octavia to solve the conflict between Antony and Octavian and Antony have split control of Rome, with Octavian at the heart of Rome in the west and Antony in the east. Antony, he married Octavia in the year 40 BCE, right? You're gonna have to walk with me on this one. Oh, quickly, just like for reference, in case you don't know, with BCE, it stands for before Common Era, so we are going backwards with the numbers. So the smaller the numbers get, the more years are being added on. So we're going towards the year 0 or 1. I don't know. Is the year 0 a thing? I don't think so. Anyway, we're going towards Common Era, which is our era. So a year before Antony marries Octavia in 41 BCE, Antony wanted to win Parthia, which is this very difficult empire to win. It's in the Asia Minor kind of area, and Caesar had even tried winning Parthia at one point, and he'd failed. And Antony really wanted to succeed to show his strength for the Roman Empire. So he summons, wait for it, his best friend's ex-lover, Cleopatra herself, to this place called Tarsus to help him try to seize control of Parthia. And in this time, she manages to seduce Mark Antony. And I say seduce, it was definitely, like, not that difficult with peace and love. Like, I feel like men back then would have been just incredibly easy. Anyway, honestly, I also think that this was low-key a petty move for Mark Antony towards Caesar for not, like, being given anything in his will. I could see it. I'm sorry. It's also important to note at this point that many historians, like ancient Greek historians and ancient Roman historians, many of these ancient historians report that these powerful men are just so completely captivated by the beauty of Cleopatra, which makes her being able to get these men on her side, like, so much easier. They're, like I said, incredibly easy. So at this point, the love triangle, it's forming more into a 5-dimensional blob because everybody is married. One of them is dead. Yeah, it's insane. I've drawn this diagram to kind of help. I don't know how long I'm going to leave it up on the screen, but I hope it helps. So the same year that Antony marries Octavia, Cleopatra gives birth to Antony's twins. So now Cleopatra has not one, but 3 potential heirs to Rome. Oh, and like just a quick age gap check. Octavia, she's 29, Cleo is also 29, and Antony is about 43. So it's not as bad as Caesar, but not great. Weirdly though, pretty good for Roman standards, so we're not going to question it. Even though Cleo and Antony had children together, their relationship was even more of a situationship than Caesar, because not only was Antony married to Octavia just because he needed to be married to someone, but he was married to her for a political alliance between himself and Octavian, so things had to look good on the surface. So between him and Cleo, they were on the down low. And they do end up having another kid at one point. So Cleopatra has 4 children from 2 very different powerful men. So at this point, Antony, he's way over here in the east. Octavian, he is still in the west at the heart of Rome. And Octavian is making it his goal to make sure that the heart of Rome hates Antony. They already don't like him because he's way off in the distance, ruling a more foreign part of this Roman land. But Octavian, he does a really good job pushing that hatred even more. Things are getting close to boiling to a full-blown civil war between these two because Octavian obviously wants full control of Rome, and then Mark Antony also wants full control of Rome. So they're just doing everything they can to be as petty to each other as they can. And while Antony is out and about gallivanting all over the east with his little foreign queen, Octavian is at home. He is making it clear to the Roman people that he is going to be buried in Rome. Rome is his home. He is not leaving it. He is for the people. Octavian begins spreading so many rumors about Antony, and he begins doing coins that like are depicting him as weak and basically as like this slave to a deceptive Eastern Egyptian queen. And Antony, to be honest, he's not helping his case very much. Because out in the east, Antony is depicting him and Cleopatra as like one leader together. Not even him and Octavia, right? There's coins of him with Cleopatra on one side and him on the other side, and they look very similar to kind of show their mutual like shared belief in what they want. Antony is also out here divvying up Roman land and giving it to his children that he has with Cleopatra, which does not help his case. And he also had a humiliating defeat in Parthia. Remember how I said earlier he and Cleopatra were going to try to take Parthia because it was something that not even Caesar could do? Yeah, they failed miserably. And he is just so extraordinarily down bad for Cleopatra, and everybody can tell. Even though he's married to Octavian's sister, everybody knows he and Cleopatra. Yeah. So with all of this, in 33 BCE, Antony finally decides to permanently sever his ties with Octavian, and he ends up divorcing Octavia. Octavian almost immediately does the unthinkable. Very unsurprising of him, just given who he is as a person at this point. He declares war on Antony and Cleopatra, specifically on Cleopatra. And the propaganda that he had been spreading about Antony, it was so convincing that even though he's basically like a sole leader in his own right at this point, he declares war with the backing of the Roman Senate. So like he would have done it with or without their approval, but he did it with their approval, so that was insane. So on September 2nd, 31 BCE, Antony and Cleopatra are defeated at the Battle of Actium, which is a sea battle that like takes place around Greece. This part is admittedly very tragic. At first, Antony had believed that Cleopatra had forged a deal with Octavian to ensure her own survival. And then he believed that she had died by her own hand. And so in Roman tradition, Antony had attempted to fall on his own sword. But even in this, he failed. And his wounded body ended up being taken to Cleopatra, who was hiding in a mausoleum. It is reported that Antony died in her arms, and Cleopatra, realizing that without her lover and his army, would have been paraded around Rome as a prisoner by Octavian. So she also ended up taking her own life, supposedly by allowing a poisonous Egyptian cobra to bite her. Octavian, who at this point had changed his name to Augustus and was well on his way to becoming emperor, had come out triumphant. But fearing another civil war, he had his first cousin once removed, Caesarion, killed in Alexandria. And that is how Cleopatra's love life literally ended an era, brought down a dynasty, and gave birth to the Roman Empire under Augustus. Messy doesn't even begin to cover it. I feel like before this video ends, I need to do a close-up of my makeup because it is serving cunt, and I want to keep serving cunt like this. So please let me do more of these historical videos because, boy, oh my god, if I do a medieval one, I have so many henins that I could wear. It would be so fun. And if you like this type of content, please consider subscribing. I know this is a big shift from my usual content, and just like I haven't posted in a year, but I think it's a really fun type of content, and I think I would even end up converting this to a podcast on Spotify eventually. I just love history so much, and I would love to just be able to yap about it nonstop. Specifically, I find ancient history so fascinating, but like I said, I'm happy to report on any era. I love the Renaissance as well. Indian history is really interesting. African history is really interesting. I would report any era, any place. You guys just tell me a time, and I will find something juicy in there. So please comment your suggestions down below. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will yap with you next time.